Stand for the pledge, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What are these? These are just a combination of this? What's this one?
Roll call. John.
Present.
Scott.
Present.
Mark.
Here.
Stephanie.
Here,
Dale's here. Get approval of the agenda.
a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Stephanie to approve the agenda as presented, seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Sorry, none will proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So I guess we're here to talk about our law enforcement situation, and we've got the numbers redone so that we ensured their accuracy from our last meeting. And we've got the,
So up at the top, I have what each position is, what it was budgeted for, the new requested amounts, how much that would be per year, how much that would be per month, and then down at the bottom it's broke out for all the benefits.
You don't have any extra copies?
I don't. You can use mine.
Well.
Show the big screen. Put it up on the big screen.
and then we also.
I have Zoom up.
Oh.
No, WDAY.
Oh, okay.
We also have the last 3 years' budgets for the sheriff's department
And, yeah.
as comparison.
So maybe we should start at the very beginning, as we should have on Thursday, with dealing with the resignation. And the resignation is the end of negotiations, not the start. Somehow it morphed into something that shouldn't have been. That was a negotiation that should have taken place during the budget cycle. Nevertheless, it took place. After the fact, it came to be known that the negotiation wasn't really about salary, because the sheriff had walked into the auditor's office prior to the meeting and taken her name off the ballot. So what was she negotiating for? She was not going to be sheriff. But yet down the road we went, because a whole bunch of disruption to the way these meetings are conducted. We caused damage to the relationship between our employees and the county commission. And we were doing it without looking at the facts. We should have stepped back, tabled it, stepped back and looked at the facts. What we knew then, what we thought we knew then, and what we know now to be fact are completely different. So now we need to start from where we're at right now. Forget about what's been done. Put it into our head that we're not going to let that happen again, and try to move forward with trying to fix this. So the first thing we should look at are some of the things that weren't based on fact. There was a lot of talk about the budget underfunding the sheriff's department. Compared to what is, I guess, the big question. But if you look at the sheriff's budget, it's too bad we don't have this up on the screen. But the sheriff's budget steadily has increased since 2021. And at this point, we are 22% higher than the 2021 budget. It was fully funded for the sheriff and 2 deputies. The amounts for the salaries that the sheriff asked for, keep in mind, the sheriff puts together this budget, we don't. All we can do is approve the budget, period. Once the budget is approved, the sheriff acts on that. He or she takes the money within the budget and goes out and hires deputies, buys vehicles, if approved, spends the money, the rest of the money in the budget. We don't have any say over that. I've been here for 9 years. We have never hired a deputy, whether it's sheriff or otherwise, and we've never got rid of one. So that's not our job. We're to fund the position. So let's look at what the request was of the 2023 budget. We're working on 23 and 22. The sheriff requested $61,796. She received $60,861. Just a shade less than what she requested. The chief deputy, the request was $50,000, was granted $49,401, $900 less than was requested. The next deputy requested the sheriff requested $47,415 and was allocated $46,369. Now the reason these numbers very, very much a little bit under what was requested, but the reason they came out that way is because we've treated all the employees equally. So if one gets a raise, they all get a raise. If one takes a cut, they all take a cut. The argument's been made that the sheriff's department is higher priority than these other departments. That can be an argument, but that's built into the system already. The sheriff's salary has always been higher than the auditor's. So when you move one up, you move them all up. So that's the argument that somehow we had underfunded the sheriff's department is incorrect. We have seen a gradual, steady rise here. Now we move to the point that, keep in mind that these numbers were just presented to us by the sheriff, 61,000, 59,000, 50,000, and 47,000 respectively. On Thursday, she gave us numbers of 66, 55, and 53. Where did those come from? They had never been offered before. We'd never seen those numbers before. How were we supposed to answer that we'd turned down her request for that salary when that was the first time we saw it was on Thursday? Now, she assembled a bunch of people that came to that meeting with the expectation that with enough pressure, she was going to get a raise and continue on as sheriff. That was the feeling of the group. Believe me, I was here, and that was certainly what was going on. Did they know that when they were standing up for her all the time, the whole time this thing was going on, this flash mob of people offering opinions to the county commission, that there's no way she could have been sheriff? She'd taken her name off the ballot. No way to put it back on. So what was that exercise about? I don't know. Doesn't matter. But we need to set the record straight. From this point on, now we are faced with not having a sheriff going forward. That's the issue that we have to deal with now. That is the issue we should have dealt with prior. If someone hands us a resignation in a public meeting, accepting it is not, we can't have it. Accept means that we acknowledge that it was handed to us, not that we accept the terms of it. Public meeting, that's all it means. So there should have been no, well, what can we do to turn this around? That was final. And as it turns out, guess what? That's what her wishes too were also. She has taken a job outside of law enforcement, possibly didn't want to be in law enforcement. It wasn't for us to try to convince her otherwise. It was for us to accept the resignation and move forward, and we didn't do that. But we're going to be forced with doing it now, but we've done great damage. We've done great damage to the way business is supposed to be conducted. It's supposed to be deliberative. It isn't supposed to be do something, do something, do something. We need to do something based on fact. And fact takes time to gather. And that's what we've done over the weekend. And I hopefully we're going to come to a satisfactory outcome in this. But we cannot govern, nor should people be governed by flash mob and Facebook. And that's what happened here. We got to get back to the point where if there's an issue, that the facts are presented on both sides and there's time given to act on them. So that's where we're at right now, and that's the starting point. How are we going to deal with this resignation and the lack of law enforcement in Griggs County. And that's exactly where I was the minute after the resignation got turned in, and my opinion was disregarded the rest of the time. So if you're gonna back it up, you guys gotta back it up. Because you did what, you did it, I don't know how to undo it. And I'll certainly be helpful in whatever we need to do. Budget-wise, we need to make some changes. There were some things done now that, knowing what happened, that need to be changed. Not, I assume you wanna leave the same salaries in place, and that was voted on, and that shouldn't be reversed. That was a vote, even though under duress, it shouldn't be reversed. But the method of funding them has to be changed. And we need to look at how we're going to deal with the problems that might ensue down the line with, how do we put this? We played favoritism. We took a group of employees and said they were less important than another group of employees. And this whole thing runs on cohesion. And the only thing that the employees should be entitled to, the most important thing they should be entitled to, is respect, that we are going to treat them the same as we treat everybody else, and we didn't do that. And unfortunately, we don't have the financial ability now to undo that. There's one other thing that has to be brought forward. Some people will call it coincidence. I'm not that generous, but the timing of this whole thing puts in jeopardy the election process. The day this was done was the final day to put somebody on the ballot. The day this was done was the final day that you go off the ballot. Both were done. So now we're faced with an open ballot that is subject to write-in. The person with the most write-in candidates is going to, ballot numbers is going to be the sheriff after this is all done. How are we supposed to move forward and hire a sheriff between September 21st and December with the only guarantee that you can be sheriff for a month and a half? So let's move forward from here, but this was not the way to conduct business, and everybody knows better.
Do we have any candidates offering names for sheriff that we can appoint? I assume that's what we're here for today.
Well, you see the problem is who we appoint today would now be subject to winning a write-in election in, when's the election, Sam? November 8th. So we have nothing to offer but 45 days of employment.
Someone running for sheriff, is there any qualifications that the guy have to run? Or is there none?
No.
Just
Just
good,
citizen of Griggs County.
good question. So
Is there
there is no
age?
post,
In age?
there's no pre-qualifications, there are post-qualifications.
They have to be an elector of the county. There's no age qualifications, but they have to be post-certified. I think it's within either a year or two.
1 year.
And then in order to qualify. And they have to take the sheriff's civil process class.
Yeah, which isn't unusual in Griggs County. I've seen in my lifetime the sheriffs that have been long-term here, none of them have been prior law enforcement. Kenny Johnson, Paul Henderson, and Sheriff Hook all went through the process we're talking about, and all they were elected and then went and got the training.
So where do we start with fixing the budget process first? we pulled
Yes,
the
so,
money.
so now that we know that we don't have, before taking money out of the existing budget to give a raise after the budgetary process, it's not really allowed. But now we know we're faced with something else. We're faced with a resignation. So now the money should come from the reserve fund in the 2022 budget. The actual salary increase can stay, but the funding of it would come from the reserve fund in the 2022 budget. And that will fund these salary increases until the first of the year. And if you
And why is it supposed to come from the reserve fund?
Well, because that fund is already in the budget, so it's already been levied. We already received approval to use that for the 2022 budget. The citizens have granted us approval to use that money. The COVID money is off to the side, and so far what we've used that for is to buy down levy. So in 2021 budget, we used it to decrease the amount of money we're gonna charge all the taxpayers in Griggs County. The very good use for the money. Everybody was affected by COVID, everybody got a little bit of relief. This year we used it because of the huge shortfall in the senior citizens budget. The Meals on Wheels program, of course, because of everything associated with COVID, was drastically underfunded. The ride share was drastically underfunded, which not only services the senior citizens, but medical patients and a lot of things like that. So we allocated $60,000 towards the senior citizens, which offset levy also, because we were gonna be faced with doing something with that anyway. We're gonna have to levy money in order to build up that program. We used money that was already there and negated the need to tax the people more. It was used like it's supposed to be used. This reserve fund is for unexpected circumstances, and certainly the resignation of an employee and the need for replacement at a higher cost possibly, or at least having the money at it for a higher cost is certainly could not be expected. So that would be the first thing I think we should do, is to fix the funding in that budget to move forward.
The $7,613.70 to get us to the end of the year, correct?
You'd
Okay.
want to remove the previous COVID the funding number and insert this out and transfer this from the reserve.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mark to move is it the 70354, is that correct?
760.
1370.
Right down the bottom of the page.
Okay. Motion by Mark to remove the 716-1370 from the sheriff's budget that came from the COVID and access that money from the 2022 reserve budget.
The current budget year we're in, yeah.
Yes.
I'll second.
Motion seconded by Stephanie. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor? No. John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Dale votes aye. Motion carries. So now going forward for the 2023 budget, we fix that as we arrive in 2023.
We'll have to see what. We'll have to see what we've arrived at as far as the sheriff's department. What funding are we gonna need?
Yeah.
So we're talking about, $29,000 is in order to, correct, Sam?
22,067.
If this is for 1 year,
That's for 3 months.
right?
But that was a different budget. So I took what you budgeted for, what you requested.
Oh, I see,
and-
because of the raise, okay, very good. Yeah, because we were raising the 2022 budget, which is lower salaries, okay, so it'll take $22,067.50, and I don't think that will be, I think that can probably come out of the COVID funding after Jamie explores whether or not that was to be used for
It should be.
a bonus or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay. So given that, then we will have to. We'll have to look into that. We, by law, we're not allowed to amend once the 2023 budget upwards. But we can probably, can we call this a bonus, Jamie? Can you look into that? Based on,
I think one of the uses for COVID money, if I recall, was for bonuses for essential workers that worked through
Okay.
COVID.
so I think that funding should be available in one form or the other. And for the $22,000, I believe we had a reserve of, what was it, Stephanie, 150 in next year's?
Was it 167?
In next year's
It was-
budget?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
In the COVID or the?
no, in the reserve itself.
Oh, that was 200 and something.
No, that's this year, I think.
Nope, so in 2023, we have 200,000
Okay.
in the current year's
In the
2022 in the reserve, yep.
Yeah,
And then in the 2022, we have 260,000.
yeah, there was, okay. So that's a doable deal. Now we just need to find someone to do it with.
Do we have any names? People that would wish to fill in for sheriff?
We do,
Okay,
we do. I mean, does anybody else?
I do not.
Okay. So after the dust settled on Thursday and I took stock of what had happened and what should have happened and how to fix this, I made a few phone calls. And I've reached out to a number of people, ex-law enforcement here, basically questioning how we could fix this. And the discussion, well, it wasn't much of a discussion. I basically begged some people to come back and help us out. And Bob Hook has consented to talk with us about it. And he is also has a deputy, or somebody that could fill the deputy position possibly, that would come on board also. And of course, I can't negotiate for the board,
Yeah.
so I left it at that. So, Bob would be available today during this meeting to talk to us. And from my understanding, he would be able to be appointed, and whether or not then he would be a write-in candidate I guess, would be up in the air, I'm not sure.
So Bob would come here and work,
Bob would come here and assume the duties of the sheriff is what,
but he'd also take on, working as the take on days, so he doesn't only have 2 deputies, or we have 3 people that'll be able to take,
we have the one deputy,
yeah,
and he's got someone else. Bob's been working in law enforcement since he left. He's got
Right.
someone else that could be hired.
is he gonna take days himself, though? Or are we gonna be, or would it be where you'd only have 2 people to work?
No, it would be
the
fully
shifts?
staffed. We'd have a sheriff and 2 deputies.
Would the sheriff also work shifts, though?
Yes. He would take on the duties of the sheriff. The way I understand it. I mean, the same duties that he previously held.
Dalton, can you work with, under those conditions?
As long as the new sheriff comes here and he's working and handling the duties of a sheriff, working patrol, taking the day shifts, I see no issue. But I also have to think of myself as well, because I do have a son. I have family. I have a
Yep.
life outside of
Yep.
law enforcement. I need to be able to still enjoy that,
Mm-hmm.
because my life isn't law enforcement, it is my job. As long as I receive the help and we can all work together, I see no issue with it.
Okay,
I'm not gonna sit here and fight it, but I definitely appreciate the help. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, this has been, of course, I'm not negotiating
Yeah.
with Mr. Hook. I was presenting a solution
Yep.
to a problem that has to be solved.
that was tossed in our lap.
And it's, if the board thinks that no solution is better than this solution, then so be it. But I don't believe that's true, and I don't think the citizens think that's true either. Bob has a long history of in law enforcement. He has ties to Griggs County. He left to pursue other endeavors, and I don't think that he necessarily wanted to come back or was thinking to come back. I know he wasn't, I called him, but he's willing to do it to help out in a time of need. And I don't, from my point of view,
Would it be would it be like a short-term deal, a long-term deal? What's his thinking? Do you follow me?
well,
Did you say?
the circumstances, I don't know.
No.
The circumstances will dictate that.
Okay.
In the
Be-
meantime, should we still, since the deputy he'd be bringing with him would be a temporary thing, we'd still be out looking for another
No, the way I
deputy
understood it, the deputy would be hired,
and moving to Cooperstown to
I don't know that.
see
So
that's
to hire a deputy, we still have to follow the statutory method for hiring a county employee, so we still have to advertise, so we can't.
I know, I understand that. Okay. Guys, I'm not saying do this or not doing it, I'm giving you an option.
Yeah,
Compared to the options that you have in front of you,
yeah, it's the only one we have.
yeah.
so with that, I told Bob that once we had arrived at a decision, that I would call him and put him on speakerphone. Is that your wishes?
It is mine.
Mine,
Yeah, that's fine. He's in Bismarck, correct?
I don't know where he is today.
I mean, that's where he's living,
I
right?
believe so.
Yeah.
Hello, Bob. John Wakefield.
Yes, sir.
I'm here with the commission and some people in the chambers.
Okay.
I've explained that I reached out to you with the problem we have with the sheriff's department being drastically understaffed, and that you had agreed in part to talk with us about what possibly could be done and what you would be willing to help us out with. And I'll leave it at that. We're pretty much open to suggestions. From my perspective, I would like to have you appointed to serve out the interim, and I would be greatly pleased if you would run as a write-in candidate in the upcoming election. I also told them that you had some contacts that you could possibly fill or help recruit another deputy, and that's as far as we've gotten. So I'll just leave this on the speakerphone, and maybe there'll be some questions. Any questions you have, Bob?
Well, I guess first I'll start off by saying it was a privilege to work there the years I did. I was not looking for a sheriff's job. I wasn't looking for a law enforcement job. I've turned down several very interesting positions in law enforcement since I retired from there. This came to my attention from a family member that was what was happening up there, and then it unfolded, of course, the next day. And like you said, John, you reached out to me and we talked it over. I think the thing that the citizens really need to get, and this is from my standpoint, is this is a three-pronged problem. First one is the commissioners have the ability to appoint an interim sheriff now until January 1st. And that's roughly 51 days before you have your election, or 50 days, something like that. Then you either whoever needs to come up with a write-in candidate, which everybody should understand, that person then would be in office January 1st, and then what's the future from January 1st going to look like? My roots run deep there. I still have business there. I have property there. I have 5 generations of family have been in Griggs County. Am I excited about the opportunity? Yeah, it's always flattering to feel like you're wanted. Wasn't really looking for it. I would entertain proposals that the commission would have to be interim sheriff, and then we would take that as the first step, and then I guess I would like to see what that's about and go from there. I do have an individual that I worked with for 20 some years that is roughly my same position, had retired from it. Very gifted and very qualified individual that would fit very well with the lifestyle of the Griggs County residents and the rural take. He worked rural in North Dakota most of his career. And I spoke with him, and he would be willing to fill whatever he needed from today until 9-10 months down the road. Shane comes back or whatever happens. And he said when that day come, he would hand in his stuff and say thanks and head off to his next venture. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't want to get wrapped up in a bunch of emotional things in this meeting. I'm just not in that position. I have nothing but the utmost respect for the individuals you've had working there. I know what the job's about. I know what a toll it takes on a person and their families and the whole business. So that's where I'm at with it. For me, I guess it's a business decision right now, not an emotional one.
So how would you want to proceed, Bob?
Well, I guess I would definitely accept if you're looking for someone to help out to get some coverage there, and step one, I would accept the appointment if that's what the commission chooses, if that's what the citizens choose through your constituency. That's where I'd be at right here today, and then I would more than likely accept write-in candidacy to get us over that hump. And then I think the coming year would determine a lot of things, because there's some things logistically that I'd have to come deal with in that coming year to get myself up to speed with licensure and some things. So there's a lot on the plate, but we would get to these first 1 or 2 situations. I can get you there.
I think that's more than generous. I think Scott can be other question.
You come back here and live here then for off and on, or how do you want to do that, Bob?
Yeah. So I talked. this individual that, I won't say his name until we go forward here because, you know, I'm just not gonna drag him into it just yet. He, we talked about that. We've both been very experienced. We gave our whole lives to this job. And we understand exactly what it takes to make this work, just like the people you've had working there. It's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. If you haven't really had any idea what your law enforcement has been going for the last 2 years, you've had your head in the sand because it's not been a very, very shining star of a profession for anyone that people aren't even going into it anymore. They don't want to do with all that. But to answer your question, Scott, yeah, I've got property there. I've got rental properties there. And I'm in the process of working with a family member on one of those, so I'm going to probably be bunking with somebody. But yeah, I'll spend adequate time there, and of course I have a life all west yet, so I'll have to go back and forth to make that work. And that discussion has been had, and depending what the final outcome here is with the commission and what is offered, I think a decision could be reached pretty quickly.
Okay, sounds good.
Anybody else? So would you be willing then to tentatively accept a position today if it's the wishes of the commission?
Yes, I would, and I would like probably some further discussion just on some intricacies of that, you know, just fine tune things.
Okay, let us discuss this and set up at what time then, I assume tomorrow, the following day, what time would be best for that sit down, or we could probably do it over video, over the phone. What would work for you?
Probably tomorrow afternoon, midday.
We'll appoint 2 commissioners to meet with him.
Mark?
We'll
And I'm
probably
very flexible
appoint
on
2
that. When I say
commissioners
midday, it could be any
and
time in the
negotiate
afternoon.
meet with him.
It has to be after 1 o'clock. I'm tied up till at least I know 12:30.
Okay, Mark suggested appointing 2 commissioners to meet with you, and then we'll proceed from there.
That's okay with me.
It seems to be the consensus that this will probably move forward. We can't say for sure, but certainly I appreciate the dedication to Griggs County and interrupting your life to help fix this for us. And
Yeah.
I think the rest of the people do also.
I'm not trying to swing in here and be the white knight to save the day. It's nothing to do with that. I just know what a serious position the sheriff is, and it goes way beyond writing speeding tickets and chasing teenagers around and making too much noise in their car. There's a lot of statutory duties that got to come to play here, and without that, it puts the county in a bind. It can be a serious bind, a liable bind.
Bob, you still have all your license up to date?
No, that's one of the things we're gonna have to cross bridge with. And
Okay.
I talked to the post board today, and I'll have some answers on that for you tomorrow. But there's no problem working for the first part to get us through all this. There's so much there at all. So it's funny, you know, a law enforcement officer, if you're out 2 years, you don't pay your reinstatement fee. You got to go through the academy again at some point. But you can be a doctor and an airline pilot, and your license lapse and pay $50 and get it back and continue working. So I don't know how that all works. But it is what it is. So I'll be happy to speak to you guys tomorrow.
So tentatively, we'll be getting back with you with whoever's appointed to the two-person board, excuse me,
Okay?
tomorrow afternoon. So someone will be contacting you shortly after the meeting and setting up a time.
Sound good.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep, thanks. Bye.
Did he say anything about sheriff or anything about salarying like that?
I did.
You know, that's a big question, you know,
Right.
with him, you know.
I don't know. He knows,
Yeah.
he does know what was proposed.
Okay.
Sure.
And of course, anything past, as one person, I have no way to.
Yep. Or even the 2.
Yeah.
Right. So that will all be left till tomorrow, but this, again, nothing can be for sure until it's for sure. And it takes steps in order to get to that point. And this was the first one here.
You wanna make the motion to appoint?
Well, I'll certainly be on the board if you so desire.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion to appoint Bob Hook as the sheriff, intern sheriff.
Oh, boy.
interim?
Effective date of September 22nd, is
I
that?
suppose.
Should maybe, or yet, I don't know.
I don't know, yeah,
Well, we can't appoint him as sheriff when we have a serving sheriff who
correct.
Okay,
isn't done until the 21st is the last day.
22nd then, I suppose.
So motion by Scott to appoint Bob
Sound
Hook
right, Jamie?
as interim sheriff with the start date of September 22nd, 2022.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion?
You guys might wanna have the discussion with him first before you appoint him. He was,
I think you said tentatively.
okay.
Did you?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I
That's what I
understood.
heard, yeah.
Mhm.
I think he's hoping,
The least he'll do is fill us in
Fill
until
us in
the
for like that
election,
temporary
or until the
piece.
first of the year, he was saying.
yeah,
In the meantime, would we be advertising, looking for
the deputy.
deputies or
'Cause we legally have
a
to do
sheriff
that,
that's
right?
interested in?
So we have to advertise for 2 consecutive weeks before we do any hiring or interviewing
And that's just for the deputy
for the
position,
deputy
Not the
position.
The sheriff is
job.
okay though, right?
Hire the
Jamie?
deputy,
Well,
not
well,
us.
well, wait a minute.
Or not?
Okay.
We as a
But-
county commission don't advertise for the
I think
sheriff's
that-
position.
No.
I think
I
that's-
was
what I'm
just
saying.
generally
That's-
asking,
just-
not
I
that
just
we
even sure,
would.
I think that would be
Yeah.
up to the sheriff to do.
He
The
will.
commission can't do that.
Okay.
Right.
And it seemed like he had someone that
In
might
mind.
be interested, but it still has to be advertised, you're
Yeah.
correct.
That's what we're.
Because I think Dalton did too, possibly have somebody that would be interested.
I'm
so.
actively speaking to the academy in Devils Lake. I've
Yeah.
been in conversation with a couple students there. I'm not gonna promise it.
Yeah.
It's, there are a lot of places open, a
Oh.
lot of positions open. It's, when you have 100 officers leaving the job every day, people are looking. And they're making offers that, we might not be able to make.
Yeah.
But yes, I am actively trying to get at least some new faces. So.
So we have a motion by Scott, seconded by Mark, to tentatively appoint Bob Hook as sheriff with effective date of September 22nd. Is there
At
any dis-
midnight. I think you guys made that in the motions before, like it's at midnight. So that he takes the phone. Right?
Excuse me?
It like is at midnight, like September 22nd at midnight,
Midnight.
he gets the phone.
Is there any additional discussion?
So once the appointment is made, Jamie, he assumes all the duties of the sheriff's department, correct?
Correct.
He did state that he wasn't up to date with the certifications.
That's correct.
That's
He
what
can
I
get a
understood.
provisional license from the
Yeah.
post, and I'm sure he will be able to once they learn about the appointment. He should be able to get a provisional
Right.
license.
I was just curious because he can assume the duties of the sheriff once he's appointed. However, without a certification, post-board certification in North Dakota, he wouldn't be able to make arrests or let alone
Yes.
basically parole around and act in those circumstances. Statutory, of course.
Yeah.
But by the time that he would assume office, I would guess that he'd have a provisional
Right.
license from them.
Of course.
By September 22nd?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of the county commission requesting it and then the granting of the provisional license, the way I understand that.
Yeah, and then he can take it into his own hands to go about
And then you have a year.
taking post certification.
So do you want to do that? Well, let's get this one done first.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So, do we make a motion to request provisional ballot or provisional, so you can get certified?
That would be up to him. I think he can get on the phone with post.
He can do that without us.
With
Very good.
Jamie's help, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that can get done, and I think it'll take the approval of the county commission that we request that it be reinstated. Is that right, Jimmy?
I think as soon as if he's hired by someone, I think that county is automatically sponsoring of the license.
So, he's already sponsoring.
Then along with John, who would like to negotiate or speak with Bob tomorrow afternoon.
I nominate Dale.
You nominate me.
Yes.
So just so you guys are aware, that's subject to open and subject to open meetings and
Absolutely.
will have to be
Yeah.
noticed.
I mean, it's fine with me if we do it in an open meeting, but it would save everybody having to come here.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yep.
I mean, and I would hope that the state's attorney would sit in on that negotiation also.
So you and I, John,
Okay.
and Jamie, what time do we wanna?
I told him, I think I'd call him.
Just when it's convenient for Bob, just let me know.
Some-
Said
He
anytime.
said sometime after 1
After
o'clock,
one.
so.
Yeah.
we'll-
I would ask the earlier the better.
okay.
Then we wanna just come here.
Yeah, it can be conducted anywhere. in the
Yeah,
city,
just-
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, meet in Jamie's office or something.
But I mean, if we wanna come here and make it public and put it on a recording, that's fine.
We have to, if it's a committee, so we have to, it's subject to open records,
Yeah.
or open meetings.
It'll just meet in the chambers tomorrow.
Okay. Well, tentatively for 1 o'clock, but let's just see what time we'll work on.
Yeah.
Is that it?
As far as I know.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion by Mark to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stephanie. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned at 3:46. Next meeting is our regular September 22nd meeting in this chambers at 2:30 PM.